For today's 80 days of healing, or a sip, trick, tip, or treat, it's all about what's coming through. It's all about taking accountability and responsibility. And it comes back to our being and living within our truth. And accountability and responsibility means that no matter who did what, no matter how long it's been, no matter what the details of what it happens, it's that you own it. It happened to you. It's your trauma and insecurity. It's your shame or blame. And there's a difference between, there's a lot of shame and blame that happens in healing, but there's also the real healing begins when you take accountability and responsibility for it, even though it wasn't you who did it. It wasn't your fault, but you own it, and it's taking accountability and responsibility for it. And I'll give you an example. This last weekend, we were juicing, and it was 3 days, and we ended up doing like 8 different Sunny J juices. And I had visually walked through the entire weekend, day by day, putting this visual map to it. And then once you've done the visualization, you can just let it all go and give it back to source. And I asked for specific remembrances of when I needed to rest and to really do the, try to focus one of my ups into doing and then resting and doing and resting. And resting was self-Reiki, laying barefoot walking, being barefoot outside, being in nature, just resetting. And I was doing a task, and I received the remembrance that, okay, after this task, you need to go outside. And I finished the task, but I tried to do one more. And while I was spraying the counter down with vinegar, I know I had tightened the vinegar bottle because I had done it myself, and I remember tightening it. And while I was spraying that counter, in that moment of going beyond my physical limitations, the entire bottle dropped out from the spray, and it was glass, and it shattered everywhere. So I had vinegar and glass everywhere. And instead of berating myself, instead of, all the things that my subconscious mind would normally say to me, I took accountability and responsibility, and I said, if I had listened to the guidance and gone outside when I was asked to do an energy reset, this would not have happened. And by taking accountability and standing in that truth, we were able to flip the script. And instead of it being a daunting task and cleaning up the glass and the vinegar smell everywhere, it was a teaching and a learning moment of truth. And when I took accountability and responsibility, and where at that moment, I was maxed. And when that happened, bending down and all the things it would take to clean up that mess that I would normally have just asked someone else to assist me with, I was told that I could do this. And it was in reverence that I was gifted this bouse of energy to finish and accomplish that task. And I was so proud of myself, because bending over and bending down with my injury is difficult, and the pressure builds even more, and I was already at a max state. But I was gifted exactly what I needed to clean up my mess, take accountability and responsibility for me. And then I immediately went outside and did the reset, and it was kind of putting me back on track. But and I sat in gratitude and started boomeranging the gratitude for the entire day, or for everything that had happened. But it was that moment where I never did it again. Every time I would have now's the time to reset, I would go to reset. And when I did that, then I was gifted more energy to continue to help support the helping hands that were creating the juices for me. And so this kept coming up. And then we were taken to the truth temple, the temple of truth. And this is where accountability and responsibility came back in. And in Feargiveness journey, it's all about upcycling the shame and blame. But the shame and blame has come because I was trying to give away the accountability and responsibility to someone else. And then it was, I had to do the work, and I had to offer self-forgiveness for the time I held on to it. It wasn't about anyone else but me. Oh, I'm losing my voice. And so this temple of truth and the accountability and responsibility, to learn that earlier in my journey would have been so helpful. Because you like, well, that's not my responsibility. I didn't do that to me. It wasn't my fault. That was my entire trash can. But when you take accountability and responsibility, regardless of whose fault it was, regardless of what inner child trauma and drama or shame and blame, any that you're carrying, it's now your responsibility to take accountability and responsibility for it. That also is coming up huge as we are merging and conversing the past, present, and future, and stepping into and embodying our true authentic self. And when we do that, to do that, we have to make space, and that requires letting go. And if you're holding on to anything that you feel like someone else needs to fix, that is holding this full convergence. It's having to take a little bit longer. It's still going to occur, but it might be a little bit more painful along the way. So this is your sign. This is your step. This is your trick to look at anything that you might be holding on to. And in Trash Can Truce this week, we went back to do the truth. Our Trash Can Truce on Tuesdays and Thursdays is when we dig for truths. And this was a great time to dig for accountability and responsibility. And this went back to like inner child abandonment. It was forgiving your parent figures that were not there for you physically, emotionally, or mentally, because they couldn't. It wasn't part of their soul blueprint. It's forgiving those wounds, the deeper ones that you feel like someone else, it's their responsibility to fix. If you had a tiff within the family or someone that you're not speaking to because of something they did that is not your fault, but you've placed boundaries for it, now is the time that you take accountability and responsibility and heal that, forgive yourself for it, and boomerang that forgiveness out. It will reach them in some way, shape, or form. Their inability to take accountability and responsibility for their actions that caused that rift, that's on their journey, and they will go through that.